Hey guys, I'm Matt Hernandez, and today I'm going to show you how to turn stadium lights on in Lightroom. So one of the techniques that I love to use with athletes whenever I have, well actually honestly, whether I have a boring background in a boring location or a great one, is just take a clean picture of them with stadium lights behind them. And I use that all the time at workshops, tutorials, all that kind of stuff. And I have people tell me pretty frequently, well, what if we can't get the lights turned on? And I've never really had much of an issue with that. It almost always is something I can make happen. And the easiest way to do that is have the parent of the senior ask the school to do it. Now, the schools that I shoot at home, I have a good relationship with most of them, so it's not a big deal. But I could understand if you're a new photographer or if you live somewhere where you're not close with the athletic director or the coaches, then maybe it could be an issue. Obviously, it has been in the past for some people. So in that case, there's nothing you can do. But to me, a picture is not as interesting if you just got a boring light pole behind them that's not turned on. It's just a black pole. It's okay, I guess, sometimes, but it's much better when they're turned on. And it's funny because a lot of people think it's for the lighting, but it's just for interest basically behind them, so you get reference, you can see where they're at. And you can have the field behind them too with the lights, or just the lights by themselves. That's just a simple way to add in extra photos to the take that you show them whenever they're going to order. So, but just in case you can't turn them on, can't get them actually turned on, I'm going to show you how to fake it in Lightroom or capture one. It would work very similar. We're going to use Lightroom today because I know that's what most people use. Okay, so we've got a shoot here of a senior baseball player that I took recently, and you can see that I'm at 43 millimeters, f4, ISO 100, 1/250th of a second. Now I have an ND filter on. I think I'm at 5 stops here possibly. And I did that just because there's disadvantages to high-speed sync. We've talked about that before. There's a video that I did on the difference between high-speed sync and neutral density filters, and we'll link that in the description and up here if you want to check that out so you can see more in depth what the difference is. So I wanted to take the same picture with the lights on, the same picture with the lights off, and then use Lightroom to fake turning them on in post. All right, so here's the one where they're actually on, and then here's the one where they were actually off. So you can see I didn't shoot it exactly the same on accident. I was at f4 on the original picture, and then f2.8 on the one where they were turned off, and the lighting's different too. So, but this is actually good that I shot it a little bit different, so you can see two different ways to light him. So this one we have a beauty dish camera right with silver interior. It's a 36-inch Manny Ortiz beauty dish Westcott, and then we've got the diffusion on it, and then we've got a deep focus camera left that is probably pulled back 10 feet that I didn't know was on, and it was actually acting as fill. So it was turned up all the way, but because it's so far back, it wasn't too bright. But you can see the shadows that would be camera left on his right side of his face are filled in there. So that's one way to open up the shadows, is just to have a second light that's turned down or pulled back in this case. And then this one we have cross lighting. We have a beauty dish camera left, same beauty dish, and then same deep focus reflector camera right. And you can see that I was a little bit sloppy on this because I didn't have it far enough out of frame where I've got some flare coming in there. So it was right on the edge of the frame, and I didn't have any diffusion or a grid or anything on it. So it's given quite a bit of flare there. And if I press backslash in Lightroom, you can see there's the raw photo of the one where the lights are off. And then let's go to the one where they're on, just so you can see that too. So there's before. All I did was apply a pretty standard preset to that, and then this one before, same presets applied, but I have some extra adjustments here where you can see the light stand is actually in this, so I'm going to take that out using generative remove in Lightroom, which is a new feature, and then I've got a radial gradient as an adjustment to kind of take care of that flare, and then we've got some more radial gradients that are making the lights appear like they're on. So let's go ahead and jump in here, and I will show you just how I edited this start to finish. So I made a virtual copy and reset it. So the first thing that I want to do is crop it the way that we want it. We want it a little bit tighter. So I'm going to pull it down and get him just in the middle there. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go up to my preset and apply that. And then, so the first thing that I see is that blue is a little bit too saturated for me, which typically happens whenever there's not a whole lot of clouds in the sky. So I'm going to go to my color mixer panel over here. I'm going to click this little circle with the arrows, and I'm under saturation. So it'll pick the color that you need to adjust. I'm going to click and then drag down. It's going to desaturate that blue a little bit. And then I'm going to go to hue and do the same thing. Slide it to the left a little bit. just to change the color, and then I'm going to darken it down just a hair too, so we can maybe match the original photo a little bit. Okay, so that now it matches, because I shot this a stop more opened up than the original. It was f4, this is at 2.8. Okay, now we're looking a lot better. Okay, so the first thing is I had this this beauty dish a little bit close to his hand, so there's several things wrong with this photo now that I'm looking at it. The first thing I want to do is darken down this area of the ball in his hand. So I'm going to go to my adjustments, and I'm going to pick radial gradient, and then just a big, nice, soft one. Put it right there. I'm going to turn off my overlay, and then I'm going to pull down the highlights. There we go. And then I'm going to add to it. So I'm going to click on the mask and hit add, and then brush. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to put my flow at 53 and just paint just a little bit on his fingers there, just so that it's not just in that one area. His hand was a little bit bright too. Okay, there we go. So there's before. That looks much better. Okay, good. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is remove this light stand. So this has a new feature. Lightroom has a new feature called generative remove, which I did not expect them to ever do anything like that in Lightroom, because it's all non-destructive, and I've actually not used it before. So let's check it out and see how good it does. Okay, so you've got to click. So you can go to your healing brush, and then click on eraser, and then you're going to select generative AI and object aware, and then this little early access button here just tells you that they're working on it. So okay, so I'm going to zoom in, maybe not quite that much. Okay. I'm going to click visualize spots, see what it looks like. Okay, in black and white. So let's just paint along the edges of this and see what happens. I have no idea. Actually, I have no idea. I had no idea how good this was going to work when I first did it a few minutes ago before we did this video. So it didn't select all of it. So then mask refinement's going to pop up, and we're going to add to it. So I guess because I selected object aware is why it was trying to select the object that I was painting over. Okay. All right, now I'm going to hit apply. And that really is, I can't believe how good that did. That's amazing. Okay, great. All right, it worked for the light stand. I don't know that it's going to work for the flare. Probably not. So let's go ahead and make a gradient instead. All right, so let's go to our plus sign in the adjustments here, and then go to radial gradient. Make one nice and big there that's got a real soft edge, and then I'm going to turn off the overlay, and then we're going to lower the exposure. We're going to make it more blue, and then turn the highlights down. Maybe the whites too. Okay, let's change our crop here. Whoops, let's change our crop here. Move it over just a little bit, because I didn't have it cropped exactly how I needed to anyway. There, that's much better. I think that's probably acceptable. I could probably run over that in Photoshop a little bit easier than doing it here. And you can actually see a line there from the AI, the generative remove. So I probably want to fix that in Photoshop too after I get done. But for now, that's fine. All right, so we've got everything ready. Now we're going to start on the lights, which is what the video is about. So let's look at the original. So you can see, because it's blurred out, these are basically just big round balls of light, and they get darker as you go back because the light's at an angle, and then like on the edges you can't even really see any light on at all. And on this one back here, there's only 4 lights that are showing, even though I think there's probably at least 6 maybe on that light, but I guess the brightest ones, the ones that are pointed more directly at you, are the ones that are showing up. All right, so let's go over here to our masks. Let's expand it, and I'm going to zoom in. All right, so let's make a new radial gradient again and make it, so I'm going to hold shift so it stays perfectly round. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. All right, let's make that center a little bit bigger. Okay, so I'm going to bump this up to 4. All right, and then I'm not only that, so I'm going to keep going back to reference this. So those are yellow and kind of orangish. So we're going to move the temperature all the way to the right. Oh, I need to click on it first. All right, there we go. And then maybe a little bit of magenta. All right, and then up the saturation. Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to copy this same mask, and then I'm going to make it smaller and darker as we go. So let's add another one. So I'm going to go up and click on the mask, and then hit duplicate mask 3. And then I'm going to grab it and move it down right there. All right. And then same thing, duplicate the copy and move it over. And now I'm going to grab the edge and hold shift and make it a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to drop it down to 3. All right. And then we're going to copy, we're just going to keep copying. Oh, I hit duplicate and invert. We don't want that. We just want duplicate. And then click, make sure you clicked on it, and then move it up. Right there. Okay, go. And then we're just going to keep doing this. Make this one smaller and darker. Maybe a little bit bigger. Okay. I'm not gonna, well, let's make that a little bit smaller. And then I'm gonna compare these here in a minute and make sure that it looks realistic. For some reason that deselected that one, okay. Okay, let's see what that looks like. All right, so there's the fake lights, and there's the real lights, and that looks pretty good. The one thing, this will probably take a trained eye to notice this. There's a slight flare around the whole thing. So let's add that in too as a final touch here. Let's go to our last one that we added. Duplicate it and make it nice and big here. Put it over the whole thing, and then I'm going to make it softer by grabbing that middle section and making it smaller. And then we probably need to dial down. I'm gonna pull the saturation down back to 0. I'm gonna make it a little bit less magenta and less. We don't want it to show up quite as much. And it needs to be around this outside part, or it needs to be around the part that's the lights that are the biggest and closest to you, because those are going to be the brightest. All right. Let's zoom out and see how we look here. Maybe a little bit too bright, so let's go to like 0.3 maybe. It still looks a little bit. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. Just needs to be very faint. Yeah, you can see it like right on the edge there. Okay, all right. So that's good. So now we're going to do the same thing back here. All right. Let's just make a new one. And we'll do the same thing, right? Make the center a little bit bigger now. And let's see, hold on. So we've got 3 on top and then 1 on the bottom. All right. So we'll go back to 4, make it warmer, up to saturation. All right. Duplicate it again. These two looked similar, so I'm going to leave them the same, and then the 2 on the edges looked a little bit darker. This one was brighter. So I'm going to lower it down to, let's try 2.5. And maybe move this one over a little bit. And these actually, I think, let's look at this again. Those aren't as bright, all right? So let's turn everything down. Let's make this 3, 3, and 2. Maybe 1.5. There we go. And then duplicate that one. And make it, let's make it 1. All right, so let's compare these and see how we look. There's the real one where they're really on, and there's the fake one where we turned them on in Lightroom. And that looks pretty believable, I feel like. So you can save that as a brush if you want to, and then it'll be quicker, you know, than creating that didn't take that much time, honestly, but if you wanted to, you could just make a preset for it. You'd have to duplicate it every time, obviously, but that might save a little bit of time. So to me, that looks much better than if we go here and we turn these off. Let's go to our masks and turn them off. So you can hold that little eyeball. So there's what it looks like without them totally, and there's with them. To me, that just adds way more interest in the background, makes the photo. I mean, it doesn't make the entire photo, but it definitely adds to it. So I would, if it was an entire shoot and they all had lights in the background, I don't know that I would do that for every single one. I would probably wait and do like a couple so that the client can see it, and then tell them that the ones that they want to buy, then you'll be happy to do that for if it's going to help. But I would probably approach it that way rather than, you know, doing it to 60 or 50 pictures, something like that. That would probably take too long, because then you don't know what they're going to want on the proofs. But, you know, if you do want to show them what it's going to look like before and after, then, you know, they can decide which photos they want and then add that afterwards. So that's just a real quick trick that I've used before. It can be super helpful just for, you know, taking a photo, just that next step to making it a little bit better. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell so that you get notified when we post new content. There's going to be a lot more to come. We'll see you next time.